BEEX project is a no-profit foundation about visual art and photography. If you want to help us, just drop a donation on buymeacoffee.com/BerlinExplorer. So, welcome to this 50 minutes of experience. Today I'm with Nikita Roytman. Welcome, Nikita.
Hello.
So, as you know, would be nice if you can tell us something about yourself, and then we can go on and talk about your work, your experience.
Sure. Well, I'm a photographer in the city of Leipzig in Germany. And well, considering photography, I started in a photo studio in the city of Heidelberg, and I was an assistant to a photographer. And there I learned actually people photography, like classical portrait photography. And that's sort of started me on the path of my professional path. Then when I moved to Leipzig, I continued on that path of people photography, like portraits, family photography, and everything that's part of it. But then due to outside things happening outside and my own situations, it shifted sort of into this more, some would say, artistic photography side, and that's what I'm actually focused on right now. That the space photography.
Okay,
yeah.
So let's talk a bit about what you are actually doing. So I didn't know you was in Leipzig, so we are not really far away. And yeah, I think, as a lot of people say from years, that Leipzig is the new Berlin. You can confirm that?
I know too little of Berlin to make such a comparison, but I find it a little odd. I would say I don't think it's as near. I mean, it's much smaller city, and I don't even know what people are actually comparing. I mean, there are different sites one can compare it to. So.
Me too. It's just an off-topic talk now, but yeah. Anyway, so your work actually is based, we can say, on the time and space. We can say that.
Yes, definitely.
And, I've seen that recently. Yeah, I mean, what we are focusing on now, it's to promote yourself in this time and space nocturnal project, we can say, and that you have a Patreon, and then you do it. You sell some stuff on Etsy and so on. And how is going that promotion? And then later we talk about what is about the project. Yeah?
Sure.
So, what you can tell me how is going now the selling of the product? How is going the found of the project?
What now? Excuse me. Can you repeat the last?
How is going the founding of the project on Padron, for example, and how is going the selling of the material on Etsy?
The project itself, it basically founded itself, one could say, because astronomy is something I've been interested in since my childhood. And photography is something which developed over time. I mean, I've been interested in photography in my childhood, but more so from a miraculous standpoint. I was just fascinated by the technology, by this little thing, this camera that you can hold, and it produces those pictures. And for me at that time, I mean, it was before the internet, before that public knowledge situation where you have knowledge everywhere, and it was something still very obscure, camera obscura, right? So it developed over time, and then it merged into this project. So I was, as I told you, during my time in Heidelberg at the photo studio, when I truly learned photography as a craft, the astronomy stayed with me. And then when I was doing photography for my own, so like a free project for myself, I tended to do something with astronomy, just to developing that part of the craft. And again, with time, I started to ask myself what I'm actually doing. What's the point of this? Why I'm taking pictures the way I'm taking them, and why is a nocturnal world so interesting to me? And through that contemplation, actually the project, the Nocturnal Mood of Time, which we're talking about right now, it developed itself. And I just started to see a pattern in what I'm doing. And when I recognized the pattern, I tried in the consecutive photography to stay true to that theme, to that topic, to that philosophy.
Okay. Okay. So what are you practically doing is exploring the sky. We can say that. So going out in the night and exploring the sky. And I can imagine.
Well, earth and sky,
Okay.
both.
And I can imagine that doing this work, you have in a way or another to find places are a bit more isolated from the city, you know.
Yes.
And so I'm really curious. How much time do you spend to doing one picture? Because there are long exposure. Even there is one picture is really, I think it's a really long exposure. And during this time, what do you do?
Well, it's different. I think the picture you're talking about with the star trail circles, so to speak, it's actually 1.5 hours. So it's not that long. I mean, there are longer exposures of such kind, but in my opinion, at some point they tend to be too abstract after some time. When the circles, when they're truly becoming circles, it's becomes too abstract. And I thought that an exposure which was just long enough but not too long still had that I would call swirling effect, and or this vertigo effect on the viewer without going into complete abstraction. So this is the longest exposure that I've used. And then since what I'm doing could be described as landscape astrophotography, because there is a terrestrial, the landscape of Earth in the picture, and all my pictures are real. So they're not collages, they're not put together. So what you see is actually the scenery that I experience. So this also puts a limit on the maximum exposure depending on the focal length and so on, but it's usually like 30 seconds for one frame. So that's basically it, but it's actually the capturing process itself. To make one photograph, there is of course a preparation part where I have to scout the location to find a suitable place to photograph, because at night, obviously it's dark, especially in the regions which I'm seeking for this project. And if I would start searching at night, it would be quite difficult, because I wouldn't see much. So it's sometimes during the day I would go out and just search for a location. I mean, there are apps and so on, and other software which you can use just to predict the positioning of the stars, so you have a composition that makes sense. So this goes into it, and then there is a technical preparation. Just I mean, I'm using actually quite mundane technology. It's a camera, it's a lens. There is not much special about it, or that much different from all the other kinds of photography, but there are certain helpful tools which I have to put on the camera to make it easier to make the astrophotographs.
Can you tell us which tools and yeah,
Mm,
going more on with experience and
mm,
also that the people listening this podcast could be inspired to follow what you're doing and trying also by themselves doing something and so trying some technique that you use.
mm. Well, as I said, the camera, especially any modern camera, is basically suitable. The camera body. If I'm using an SLR system, so in my case, it's still separated. So the camera bodies of today, they're all good. They're all sufficient. It's more the lens, which is uh, a critical component because unlike most other kinds of photography, the problem, if one could say it that way, in astrophotography is that you have very little light,
Mm.
right? So you have to deal with it somehow, and a good way to deal with it is to have a lens which collects as much light as possible, so has a wide aperture, for example. Also, astrophotography is is kind of photography that points out any problems a lens might have, so any aberrations or anything that's any problem, technical problem that the lens has, it will be visible because stars are like points of light. So you have almost like a laboratory setting for testing a lens.
Yeah,
But that aside, so you need to have a better lens, I would say. Lens is almost more important than the body, the camera body. But apart from that, a tripod is a must, but that's
yeah,
also quite simple. I mean, it's very known. Remote control for the camera is important because you want to minimize the shaking of the camera.
yeah,
Um, and that's like the basic part. With that, you can already start doing astrophotography. Um, what I'm using is also sort of I don't know, like an attachment to the lens, which helps me uh, um, pinpoint the focus, and also a filter, which helps me focus on the stars.
okay,
Because again, this is a problem. We have very little light, so there is no autofocus. You cannot autofocus on anything. And if you try focusing manually, it's really hard because, for example, if you look at the stars through the live view, they're still very faint. And to know where is exactly the sharpest point of focus, it's quite hard. So there are filters which help with that. And that attachment helps keep the focus in place for the duration of the night or for several hours at least. So this is what I use.
yeah,
And basically that's it, unless I'm forgetting something. I mean, there is a lamp, of course, preferably a red lamp, which you use if you want to change something because it's so dark, and after a while your eyes adapt to the dark. So if you wanted to, I don't know, to move the tripod and the camera so you do not stumble upon something, a rock or whatever, you need something like that. And basically that's it. I mean, for deep astrophotography, there is of course there are the star trackers which you can use for tracking the motion of the stars or the relative motion of the stars, because it's actually Earth which is moving. To make really long exposures, but that's not something I do at the moment. So again, in this project, it's a tripod and a camera, basically.
okay, okay. So let's go deep a bit in the photograph you do it and the experience you have. And so I was asking you, what do you do during the time that you wait longest exposure? We can say more than 5 minutes or 10 minutes sometimes. It's do you are do you just stay there watching the sky, or are you doing something else? And if you are there just watching the sky, if this experience in a way give to you also some surplus to experience something else, like also even make a kind of reflection of your thinking way.
Mhm. Well, I definitely stand there usually and look at the sky and at the sceneries, just enjoying it. at the same time, I'm looking forward to the photograph, how it will turn out, and if it's a longer exposure, or if it's um, uh, uh, um, like a series of exposures. It gives me more time, so I wander a bit around, trying, of course, not to bump onto my own camera in the darkness, and just scout sort of another angle maybe for the next photograph. Yeah, but basically I'm just enjoying that scenery because it's very special. I mean, I'm not in Leipzig. The sky is like it's an urban sky. You don't see that many stars, that many that scenery, that natural scenery, which gives you that sense of wonder and that sense of peacefulness. So when I am in such a rural area, I just enjoy it and think about the stars and just try to feel like that vista which I'm seeing, that actually that interstellar vista which I'm seeing superimposed on the or like a backdrop to the terrestrial world which I'm in. And that's basically what I'm trying to show in the work which I'm doing.
Okay. So with the work you do it, what would you like that other people receive from what you are communicating? So I mean, I don't want to talk about what is the goal, but more what is the aim of what you do, and why you are focusing now on also getting donated from patrons, so then it's supported from other people. Also, in a way, what would you really share in the aim of your soul?
It's a deep contemplation, I would say. It's a challenge of perception. So when I talk about this project, it's about space, it's about time, but it's also very much about perception. And I like to challenge it. I always try to challenge my perception, just to ask myself questions about mundane things, like, and try to figure them out. Are they like they seem, or is there anything interesting about them? I mean, it's in everyday world. You like people interacting with each other. They think they know each other, then they find out there is something else about the person, or they make some judgments which are maybe false. And so it's very daily experience actually. And in this project, I'm just sort of elevating it on a on one hand global basis, because this photography, I try to do it more as universal as possible and as timeless as possible. That's why there are very little, actually there is at this point only one exception to this, but there are no man-made structures in the photographs. So basically one could identify with that on a very deep, very primordial level. And by asking these deep questions, or by contemplating on this grandness and on the what it actually means to us here, the one or the other can have an epiphany about maybe other things in their lives. Yeah, that's one of the most important points, I'd say.
So let's question I want to ask you. It's what would you like to experience in the next future? I think, yeah, as you have Patreon, we had Patreon, but yeah, we stopped with Patreon, but we continue with Buy Me a Coffee. And as you know, you have to, in a way, keep there continuously posting something, or otherwise people will say, okay, what I'm founding then, you know? And I think, yeah, in a way, we set some kind of goal, we can say, and say, okay, this is something I want to do it in the next, and for the next year, I want to reach this point or that other. And what are the point that you want to reach?
I would want definitely to expand my current project, because there are facets of it I haven't explored yet. purely visually, but maybe even philosophically. And I have another project which I'm sort of creating in my mind, or have been creating in my mind for the past couple of years, which is very it's quite connected to this one, but expands on it, expands into the direction of people photography again. So it's sort of closing a circle on my experience, or at least it's connecting to my previous experiences. And I would like to be able to do that and to just be on a landscape to survive everything that's happening right now. I think that's also something that you and everyone else is experiencing. So I would like to be able to continue doing what I'm doing and to expand on that. And that's why like Patreon and social networks and also online shops, it's I use all of this on one hand to share with those who are interested, to share my vision, my work, but also to start a conversation. For instance, on Patreon, this is something I'm just starting out, but this is something I actually like very much. That this is like a closed space. This is a safe space in a way where I can share ideas and insight into my work, which I wouldn't actually do otherwise, or I wouldn't feel appropriate to do outside of this safe space. But there, for people who are truly, absolutely interested in what I would like to share with them, there it's a good place to do that, and to maybe even get input, get a sort of collaboration, but maybe in a sense that exchange of ideas can create something even greater.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think for sure it's an interesting experience. Which one you do it with people donate you money or help you, support you in a way. It's for sure something can give some results, good results in the time, for sure. And I'm curious to see what you will create next on, or how you will develop also the astrophotography. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, what I can think now is how will be if you could also start to involve portrait inside of this astrophotography. I mean, there are many ideas, many stuff very interesting. I will say you can check also the work of photographer from Japan is Daisuke Yokota, and he was doing something similar with long exposure, nocturnal time, and portrait and flash, and yeah, it was really experimental things.
Yeah, I'll sure to check it out.
Right, for sure.
No, because I don't find that much work in that direction, which I like basically, because it means that I'm doing something special in a way. But I would also like to see what other people are doing in that direction and why they're doing that. So just to reflect back on my ideas, and that's very good and thing to do.
Yeah, there are many photographers doing this kind of work. I have to say I know some of them. Now, don't jump any name particular to my mind, but yeah, for sure I will contact you in a moment, or maybe I will do it. I will write something about, and then make a collection, and then make it easy. Also the learning of this.
That would be appreciated. Thank you.
So thank you a lot for your time, for the talk, for the explanation, and this was Nikita Roytman from Leipzig. If you want to watch and support the work of him, you can just find the link in the description, and you can also join this podcast with a comment if you want, and hope to talk with you the next year, and to see what the results come.
Thank you very much for having me, for your invitation, and for your time as well.
It's a pleasure for me. Thank you for listening to this podcast, and if you want to learn more about us, you can visit the link allmylinks.com, Berlin Explorer, or our website bexproject.com. And if you want to follow us, you can always get news from Instagram on our account BEEX Project. Thank you again, and see you in the next episode.